Hello, everyone. My name is Sant Tachmazian. I'm actually a process safety engineer for ExxonMobil, but I also lead the Immersive Tech Center of Excellence. And today we're going to discuss how you can successfully scale up XR technology within a large enterprise. In today's discussion, we're going to cover various aspects, including the fundamentals, i.e. what fundamentals you need to be thinking about and considering in your approach. We'll also talk about the strategy you should consider adopting. And of course, we'll touch on some of the challenges many enterprises face when it comes to implementing XR technology. And finally, we'll wrap it up with our top 5 tips and takeaways for successful implementation and scale up. Let's get started. To set the scene, here's a little bit of background. Firstly, introducing and scaling new technology in a large enterprise really means introducing and fundamentally changing the way the business operates, i.e. changing the way people in the company work. We call it digital work transformation. It's when you use digital tools to fundamentally change the way people normally do things. For example, using virtual reality to conduct model reviews remotely from anywhere in the world, as opposed to using a TV screen that projects a 3D model in a conference room full of people. Deploying this type of technology must be aligned with the business strategy. Why? Well, most often than not, introducing XR technology within an IT department is not often the issue. Buying a few headsets, wearables within the IT group, testing them and piloting them often is the easy process. The real challenge lies in how we introduce XR technology to the business side. And how we tie the business strategy to the deployment of this technology. And most importantly, how we create value using this type of technology to further promote and adopt and scale up. Simply put, without understanding the value creation, the business will see no need to change. And we've all faced this. And most tech initiatives in large enterprises often fail to do this, for a variety of reasons, which leads to the technology sitting on a shelf, probably in an IT department, being labeled as a toy instead of a tool that can be leveraged. And it's true, we all know it. That's exactly what ends up happening. So my message here is simple. If you don't get the buy-in from the business, then the technology will never take off within your enterprise. And it's as simple as that. So what we're hoping to do today is share with you in a few slides a few tips on how you can connect XR solutions and technology to business problems your company is currently facing and successfully introduce and scale technology within your enterprise. So let's get started by talking about the fundamentals. Now, we all know technology has to be tested and piloted within your enterprise before you even think about it, using it. And that's great because this is definitely something that needs to be done to ensure technology is fit for use and implementation. But there comes a point where we have to literally stop piloting and start using this technology and actually showing the business how we can use this stuff in our day-to-day activities and how we can garner value. This transition point is important because we have to show the business that this stuff actually works and is actually being used on our day-to-day business. And just to be clear, no single person within your enterprise will be able to make that decision of when that transition happens. If you wait for this to happen, unfortunately, you'll probably be waiting forever. And historically, large enterprises are great at scaling up. That's why they become so large. And they are also great at evaluating technology. That's because they probably have all the expertise they need to do that. But it's how you connect the two in a much faster, more seamless way to enable opportunities that were otherwise untapped. Enterprises may struggle to understand where XR space lies within their business. Are we at full scale? Are we piloting? Where does the tech sit within our business? The key is to understand where you are in this space and how it affects your strategy for deployment. So what you need to do is this: define the problem you are trying to solve, come up with some testing criteria, validate the concept, and start implementing the solution. Don't refine the solution to the nth degree. Remember, there is no perfect solution. Every XR technology has its advantages and disadvantages in different applications. The quicker your enterprise accepts that, the quicker you can move from testing to deploying. Talking of deployment, the best way to promote the adoption of XR technology is to find a real use case where you can actually deploy it, an actual real life business scenario. And if you can use business contacts to help promote the use of this technology, then even better. That engages the business side with your IT folks and creates a collaborative environment this space really needs. And while you're deploying this device in a real use case, be sure to provide that white glove service. What does that mean? It means being the one-stop shop for that user. For example, train them on how to use the technology before they use the device. Be there on hand on the big day to provide coaching and support they need to deploy the technology successfully. And make sure the technology does not get in the way of what they are trying to do and it runs seamlessly. And once you deploy your technology successfully, get the feedback you so desperately need. Use the feedback to understand from the business what value the tech brought to the business activity, what worked and what didn't, what was the differentiating factor? Did they save money, time? What was it? Or did they drive efficiency using this technology? Getting the business to recognize the value of this technology is what will encourage them to use it more. And don't forget, use the feedback to improve the user experience. Work on those things that didn't go so great. And don't stop after you've successfully deployed. Keep working with the business contacts to identify more and more use cases, to start to build a list. They are the ones who face the day-to-day business problems. And so they are the ones best placed to advise where this technology can be applied. In parallel to your deployments, start promoting. But before you start shouting from the hilltops, understand how this ties into your strategic priorities or your goals of your enterprise. This is critical in answering some of the questions you will be faced with, like, why are we doing this? How does this tie in what we're supposed to be doing? Once you've made the clear connection, start promoting. Promoting will get you that first follower. Those followers will in turn attract more followers. And that's because people need to see followers, because new followers emulate followers. This is why it's so important that you have a list of use cases to hand, because what followers want to see is that who has used the device, where and when. Unfortunately, sometimes seeing is more powerful than believing. For example, when we buy a product, what is the first thing we do? That's right, we check the feedback from others. And that's the same concept that we are trying to describe here. And as you gain more and more followers, you'll also gain momentum. And that momentum leads to movement. And that movement will lead to you becoming more visible within the enterprise. The visibility will inevitably lead to what we call a pull from the business. And as more and more people reach out to deploy this technology, it will become more and more visible. It will quickly become evident to the business that this is no longer a toy that is the IT department is trying to push, but actually a solution that can help drive business value. And finally, while you're doing all of this, don't forget to have a startup business mindset. All of your followers, your champions, etc., are essentially your clients. The value you bring to the business activities is essentially the money your startup has made for the enterprise. These customers will also act as your sales reps. They will each do their part to sell the technology to the business and their peers, in turn driving more demand. All of these fundamental principles that we've just talked about today and we've highlighted are absolutely crucial to ensuring the success of introducing and scaling XR technology. Now, let's talk a bit about strategy. Here are some strategy considerations when deploying XR technology. First things first, find resources. We've all heard this before: time, money, budget. There needs to be a level of commitment from the enterprise. This can come from any department, but should preferably come from a business line, since they're the ones that will be getting value from this technology. Then think about developing a loaner program. Sometimes the business doesn't want to go and spend all of this money on XR technology that they've never used before, quite frankly, and they're not familiar with. Offering users technology at little or no cost for a trial is a perfect way of encouraging them to use this technology. Ensure you engage multiple entities and create strong relationships. I cannot emphasize this any further. This applies to both internal and external entities. The more people that are informed and are aware of what's going on, the more relationships you create, the greater the chance of your foot going in a door. Let's face it, sometimes it's all about who you know. And unleash the power of influencers. These are not always formal leaders in your organizations, but can be equally as impactful. Let them open those doors and knock down those barriers on your way to success. Create a centralized virtual platform or hub that acts as a one-stop shop for all XR technology. A location where devices can be deployed in a consistent manner. A platform that does not belong to a specific business line and is seen as a collaborative space where all parts of the business can come together to meet a common goal. This creates less friction and removes internal barriers between organizations. And finally, be opportunistic. When an opportunity presents itself, take advantage. Take the COVID-19 pandemic, for example. The pandemic turned many optional solutions like teleconferencing and wearables into absolute necessities. And this is what we mean. By using wearable technologies during the pandemic, enterprises have learned that they can save time and money by not having their personnel travel to a specific location. They can increase productivity and enable individuals to do more work remotely, improving safety and adding value. Now we all know that there are challenges implementing new technology within enterprises, especially implementing technology that's brand new. So here are some things that you need to watch out for that often present themselves as challenges along the way. First things first, financial constraints. This is by far the most common enterprise problem that we face. We all have heard this before, right? We don't have the budget or it's not in the budget. So it's really key to start these budgetary discussions early with your enterprise. Make sure enough funding is available or allocated in the plan for spending. Resources and the scarcity and the competing priorities is another challenge we often face. You've all heard this one before too, I'm sure. We don't have the resources, or this is not a priority. This is where tying XR initiatives to business strategy and priorities and goals will help overcome this hurdle. Technology skill gaps. XR is an extremely broad field that covers everything from hands-free devices to the metaverse. And there is a clear gap that needs to be worked between what skills enterprises have available to them and the skills that they need. Be sure to identify that talent early along your journey. Management buy-in. It's all about the economics at the end of the day. What is my return on investment? Etc., etc. Be sure to have the value communicated in quantitative terms. Risk of evolving tech. We all know that this space is quickly evolving, and it's important to acknowledge that, but also understand that it's the nature of the business. Therefore, being calculated in your technology spend is wise. What devices you buy, how many, what's the plan for if the newer version is released. Be sure to address all these concerns. But most importantly, the thing is to understand that you will get value from whatever you deploy. Remember, don't wait for the perfect solution. Collaboration and cross-pollination, something we often don't talk about. Removing the collaborative barriers for people who want to be involved is key to success. Just hiring a bunch of smart people is great, but the key is to empower these great minds to work together and collaborate. This is what yields the best results. And as for cross-pollination, well, what does that actually mean? That means you need to have your business contact well-versed with the technology so that they need to understand how the technology actually works. So they don't know what they're selling. Likewise, you need to have your IT folks understand how the business works and what problems the business is facing in order to be able to complete the solution. And finally, the right people who have the right behaviors. With all emerging technology, you must have the right people that are passionate and willing to push through boundaries and collaborate across organizations. If not, you will inevitably run into areas where the technology doesn't get implemented and ideas do not materialize. Now that we have talked through the fundamentals, the strategy considerations, and the challenges, we're going to leave you with our top 5 tips to remember when trying to deploy and scale XR technology within your enterprise. Number 1, in order for innovation to be successful, it must be tied to business strategy. I cannot stress how important this is. That's how you get the support of the business and the buy-in from your leadership. Number 2, successful XR deployment and scaling is only possible when we create a network of partnerships between internal organizations, removing silos and barriers. That's how you get the support that you need. No individual person or team or group can do this on their own. It takes multiple people, multiple teams, and multiple groups to unite and drive change. Number 3, in order to scale technology, you need internal champions and followers. Be sure to empower them and give them credit and celebrate their successes where it's due. This is what drives momentum. Number 4, don't forget to promote and be visible. Getting the word out is equally as important as all of the above. Don't underestimate the power of socializing and the amount of time and effort needed to do this. And finally, number 5, like all successful startups, have permeable boundaries. Be agile, adapt, and develop your business plan and strategy as you progress through this journey. Remember, there is nothing wrong with change. With that, I'm going to leave you with a final note. At ExxonMobil, we've been able to grow the use of XR technology to a global scale in all of our business lines with the strategies and approaches that we've just discussed today. XR technology, like wearables, are changing the way we work and ultimately the way we live. And everything has become much more convenient through the use of XR technology. In our books, convenience means efficiency, and efficiency drives productivity, which ultimately means value. And this is something that everyone can benefit from. And finally, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the talk and look forward to answering your questions. I'm actually joined today by a couple of my colleagues from the Automation and Immersive Realities group at ExxonMobil, Kyle and Em, who will help me answer those questions.